All right, everyone, welcome. We will get started in just another minute or so. We'll wait for everyone to get their videos and audios on. Looks like Miss Christopher's having a little trouble with her video. We'll see if we can get that fixed.
There it goes. Whoops. Okay.
Almost. Yeah, there we go. All right. We are all on video. Welcome, everyone, to another session of Virtual Conservation Live. If this is your first time joining us, I'm Ben, and I think all of our fourth graders know Miss Christopher.
Hey, everybody. I can see you.
Today we have an excellent speaker, Nerisa Taua. She is joining us from her house, and she'll tell you a little bit more about herself in just a minute. Let's go over some housekeeping. Please only use the Q&A box for asking questions of Risa or answering questions that Risa may ask you. Please do not use it for chatting with your friends. That's not what it's for. As a reminder, we have another one of these coming up at 1 p.m. The title of that one is called Science We Can All Do Anywhere. So we hope you'll come back and join us for that. But without further ado, take it away, Risa.
Thank you. Okay, I am going to go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
Oh, let's see. All right. Okay. Thank you, Ben, for that introduction. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Just kidding. So before I start, I like to share a little bit about myself and where I'm from. And this will also sort of tie into my research, which I'll also be sharing with you guys throughout my presentation. So I am originally from American Samoa, and American Samoa, of course, is often confused with Samoa, but these are two different countries. So American Samoa and Samoa, even though they have the same language and culture, Samoa is an independent country, and American Samoa is a U.S. territory. However, both are located in the South Pacific. American Samoa is made of 6 islands and 1 atoll, but nobody lives on Rose Atoll. Uh-oh.
Is it stuck?
Yes.
Uh-oh. Try the arrows down at the bottom. Okay. You're good.
Oh, the struggle, guys. Sorry, guys. One moment. Okay. Let me see. Okay, share screen. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, there. Okay, so closely looking at the map of American Samoa, I'm originally from the island of Taua, which is part of the Manua group here. I'm from the village of Fitiuta, which looks exactly as the image there. It's a very beautiful place, small population. Unfortunately, in 2004, we experienced a very bad hurricane to the point where my family and I had to move to the main island here of Tutuila. So we now live on the village of Waitongi. Fun fact, Waitongi is known for the legend of the turtle and shark. So basically what happens is that, as you can see in the picture there, villagers would stand on a cliff and they would sing a specific song and they would wait for a turtle and a shark to merge from the water. And there's a whole legend behind it. I graduated from Chaminade University in Hawaii with my Bachelor of Science in Environmental Studies and a minor in English. This picture is exactly what it looks like to be Polynesian and graduating, suffocated with lots of lays. And now I am currently here at Purdue University with the Department of Forestry and Natural Resources, pursuing my master's and doing bat research. So Going into my presentation, again, if you guys have any questions, I really do appreciate audience feedback. And I know with virtual presentations, that can be a limitation. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know on the Q&A box. I also kind of feel like it might be best that I answer your guys' questions towards the end when you guys kind of get a feel of all the information I give you guys. So going into my presentation, Bats, Little Heroes of the Night. Again, my name is Nerisa Taua, but you guys can call me Risa for short. Oh, why does this keep getting stuck? Okay, okay.
Maybe if you don't go all the way into the yeah, that works. Do whatever you need to do. You're good.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So considering everything that's been going on in the world and the reason why that we're now doing things online from back home, it is only right that I start with this slide. So our friends, the bats, have been given a negative reputation for as long as we can remember, even way before our parents were born, dating back to Victorian literature when Dracula first came out, and they're still making movies and books about bats turning people into vampires or just associating them with the dark and all things negative. And now that we have the coronavirus happening, our poor buddies just can't get a break. Bats have become the least favorite mammal, unfortunately. But what people need to remember is that despite the different animals that has caused different viruses and pandemics in the previous years and now, we still need these animals in our ecosystem. Just like the bats, we still need bats. Nature and everything in nature depends on bats, including us humans. And as we go through this presentation, we'll also learn and understand why we need these bats and what exactly makes them so important. I think I probably won't go all the way into the presentation.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't go into all the way into presenter mode and just have it up like you're,
Yeah,
maybe that will make it go faster.
I would do that.
Otherwise, we're going to run out of time.
Yes. Okay. So now sort of going into introduction of bats. Bats are part of an order called Chiroptera, and this order is considered the second most diverse order in the mammalian taxa. The first most diverse order is the rodents, which our friends, the raccoons, are from. But the bats are the second most diverse, which means that there's all sorts of species found all over the world, from small insect-eating bats to large fruit-eating ones. And then we also, another cool thing about bats is that they're the only mammals that can fly. I know some of you guys are thinking like, wait, but we have flying squirrels. Yes, we do have flying squirrels, but despite having the word flying in their name, they actually don't fly. The extra skin that they have between their hand and their arm is actually used to help them glide. So flying squirrels glide, but bats are the only mammals that have wings and have the ability to fly. Another cool thing about bats is that they use echolocation, and we'll further explain what echolocation is, but do remember that not all bat species use echolocation. And then last but not least, bats are ecologically and culturally important in the places they live in. And I know that's a mouthful, but we'll further discuss that so that we'll be able to understand that. So to dive into how diverse this Chiroptera order is, it's best that we go through the type of things that they eat, because honestly, who doesn't love food? So the first thing that the type of food that bats eat, there are bats that eat fruits and nectars. Yeah, this is kind of why I wanted to show full screen. So there are bats that eat fruits and nectars, kind of like our buddy here that's munching on a grape. And they eat fruits and nectars like from mangoes. And this flower right here is a flower from the banana tree. And there's flying foxes that absolutely love the nectar from these flowers. Then we have our insect-eating bats. They eat stuff like moths and mosquitoes. Now imagine a world with no bats, with mosquitoes, nothing eating those mosquitoes. Already chaotic. I'm already itching and mentally slapping myself all over. And that's exactly why bats are important. And another thing that bats eat is that there's also bat species that eat small land and aquatic animals. And this seems to surprise a lot of people because these small animals eat other small animals. Yes, they do. Okay. So now that we went into a list of what the bats eat, let's go through a list of the type of bats that eat these things. So first we have our funky looking friend, the fringe lip bat. I think it still looks cool with its big ears, its fringe lip or nose and large teeth. This bat is found in Mexico and it's also called the frog eating bat. So it makes sense that they have those big teeth because they need it to munch on the frogs. Next, we have the giant golden crown flying fox. This is the biggest bat in the whole world. These guys are only found in the Philippines and they love to eat fruits like the mango we saw earlier. Next, we have the hoary bat, and this is personally my favorite bat. I think they look like little tiny teddy bears. These guys are found here in Indiana. They're considered insect eating bats, so they love to eat the moths and the mosquitoes that we saw earlier and even beetles. Then we have our Samoan flying fox, and the Samoan flying foxes are only found in the Samoan Islands that I was talking to you guys about earlier in my presentation. And like the crown flying fox, they love to eat fruits as well, and they also love the nectar from that banana flower I showed you guys before. And then we have our long-fingered bat, and these guys are found in Iran and along the Mediterranean, and these guys are also called the fish net.
Oops, little dogs.
Dogs love the presentation.
I do.
So we talked about bats that eat fruits, small animals, and nectars and insects, but there's a really interesting species that eats none of that, but feeds off of blood. Are vampire bats. So vampire bats feed off of blood from livestock or wildlife. And the question that's always asked by people, should humans be afraid? No. It is very, very, very rare that vampire bats feed off of blood of humans. It's only been livestock and wildlife animals. So as cool or as awesome as it sounds, you will not turn into a vampire when you encounter a vampire bat. So now that we see that these bats drink blood and dwell in caves, does that mean that they're mean animals? They're not. And how do we know that? Is because vampire bats show this thing called reciprocal altruism. Basically what that is, say that we have a vampire bat named George and we have a vampire bat named Fred. Fred goes out and gets a successful dinner, belly full of blood, and he comes back and George still has an empty stomach. What Fred does is he brings all that blood that was in his stomach and shares it with George. So basically, they're really nice bats. Now moving on to echolocation. Looking at this meme, echolocation is not as simple as it looks like in this meme. If it was, we'd be hearing Marco Polo all summer nights or even last night. So the way that echolocation works is that bats would use reflective sounds to locate their objects. So looking at the bat and the dragonfly in that meme, the bat would fly and make a sound, and once those sound waves hit the dragonfly, the sound waves will bounce back to the bat, and however long it takes for those sound waves to get back to the bat, that's how the bat will know how far or how close the dragonfly is. So again, another reminder, not all bats use echolocation. Our flying foxes or our fruit-eating bats don't need echolocation because they have good eyesight. And when they're out looking their food is just hanging from a tree. Like the fruits are not flying away or running away. It's just hanging on a tree. So fruit bats don't have to use echolocation and they have good eyesight to make up for that. And then again, there are other animals who use echolocation if you guys are interested in it. Want to do more research, like dolphins. So going into the importance of bats. So like I said before, bats have been getting a negative reputation for as long as we know for so many reasons. But what people don't know is that nature depends on bats for the ecological services they provide. So for example, seed dispersal. When the flying foxes or the fruit bats are out there eating the fruits, they still have the seeds in their stomach. So while they're flying all over, they're pooping and puking all these seeds all over the world, and wherever that seed lands, a tree grows. And so that's how our forests are able to regrow and regenerate, is through seed dispersal. And then again, pollination, what bees do, our bats also do, and like our little friend right there, absolutely covered in pollen. While they go from flower to flower, they're pollinating them and helping them reproduce. And then another ecological services they provide is natural pesticides. A lot of farmers here in Indiana save so much money because the hoary bats are out there eating all the corn worms that are killing all the corn crops. So that's how these bats are helping farmers as well. And then lastly, they are culturally significant in the places they live in. And to further understand that, I'm going to use the bats in American Samoa, for example. So you guys probably saw on the flyer that American Samoa only has 3 land mammals and all are bats. So first we have our Samoan flying fox we talked about earlier. Then we have our Tongan flying fox, which eats the same thing as the Samoan flying fox. And then we have our insect-eating bat, the Pacific sheath-tailed bat. Now, all these 3 bats are culturally important in American Samoa because they have roles in a lot of the legends and the myths. And also, following those ecological services we talked about, these are the trees that grow and benefit from the seed dispersal, from the pollination, from the pesticide, the natural pesticides that these bats provide. And all these trees are used to make Samoan artifacts and Samoan cuisines. So going into studying bats real quick, this is just gonna go real far. Now that we see how important bats are and the reason why there are researchers like me out there studying bats, and hopefully after today, we'll have some more people on our team. So these are just some of the main ways people, researchers study bats. First is the acoustic detector. So the echolocation we talked about earlier, these detectors record those echolocation calls, and then they use the computer software and it looks like those calls will look like here, and the computer software will use these patterns to identify which call belongs to which bat species. And the next one is my absolute favorite one, bat mist netting, because you get to have the bat in your net. Here's a picture of me and some of my team back home. We're putting up the nets. There's me smiling, everybody else working hard. Don't be like me in this picture. And basically what it is that we will put up these really high nets and hopefully bats will fly in them. And then we'll take them down, take them out as soon as possible and start, making sure that they're okay. And depending on your research question, whatever it is you need to do. Sometimes flying foxes will fly higher than the poles we use. So we would end up having to use trees to put up the nets. And then, so like my research question is to look for places that these bats live in, so we'll be able to protect those places. So what we do is that we attach these tags, and these GPS tags basically tell us where the bat has been every 10 seconds. So in conclusion, despite our bats having a negative rep from media and everything that's been going on, we still need bats. Nature needs bats, everything in nature needs bats. Chiroptera is the second most diverse order in the mammalian taxa, meaning that there is different type of species all over the world, found in different places, like the small island I'm from, to the big countries we're living here now, like the United States. And also, please do not forget the ecological services that these bats provide, the pollination, the seed dispersal. So if you still want to see forest and trees, care for our bats. Parents, if you guys still want margaritas coming in, care for the bats. And also do not forget that bats are culturally important in the places they inhabit, and it depends on where they live.
Awesome.
These are my cited sources.
We have tons of questions, but I'm going to knock out about 50 of them with just this one question.
Sure.
Why do bats hang upside down?
So bats hang upside down because they sort of have, when they fly, well, there's not really a close answer to it, but the reason that bats are able to hang upside down without their blood flowing all the way up to their head is because they have such light body weight.
Only because I clicked on the wrong button. I would have liked to save this for later, but is bat mist netting a hobby for you, or do you only do it to study bats?
Oh, I wish it was a hobby, but unfortunately it's illegal if it's a hobby. If you're doing it as a hobby, it's illegal. But yes, I only do bat mist netting for research purposes.
Do you guys keep any bats at Purdue, or are you in your research lab?
Yeah, we don't. We only capture and release.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some other ones? Can bats hang upside down on a flat, untextured ceiling?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've seen bats hang upside down under bridges, in houses and stuff like that, and it was just flat. and there were bats there. But usually it's because they're stuck in like crevices.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one's going to be a good, oh, sorry, Monica, go ahead.
That's okay. This one came through. Does echolocation ever fail a bat?
It does, yes. There is a video on YouTube where it shows like a bat using echolocation, but then there's a leaf right here, and the dragonfly we were talking about was on the other side of the leaf, but the bat was on the other side of the leaf. So the bat couldn't get, even though it was using echolocation and it still wasn't able to see the leaf, it couldn't get to the dragonfly because the dragonfly was on the other side of the leaf. So yes, echolocation can fail sometimes.
I need you to do some myth busting for me. Can a bat go out in daylight?
Oh, yes. So there are some bats that do activities in the daylight, like the Samoan and the Tongan flying foxes I showed you guys earlier back home. When you guys just go drive around the island, wherever island it is, you'll definitely see Tongan and Samoan flying foxes fly out during the daytime.
Okay.
So that doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong with them, correct?
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean something's wrong with them. Sometimes it's because bats have competitions with food with other nighttime animals. So they do a lot of their activities during the daytime to prevent those other animals. Like owls go out during the nighttime and owls eat bats. Mm-hmm. So that's why some of the bats do stuff during the daytime.
Have you ever been in a cave full of bats?
I have not, unfortunately. I have not yet. I hope to one day.
Ooh, here's a guy. Are bats in every country?
Yes, I believe so. Because a lot of the Pacific Islands have the flying foxes, and a lot of the large countries like here in the North America have the insect-eating bats and stuff like that. So I believe majority of the countries here in the world have bats.
You talked, this is a nice long question. You talked about the negative PR that bats are getting and historical narratives that have created a negative image of bats. Are there cultural stories in American Samoa or elsewhere that convey a more positive image of bats? Or is it just negative?
That's an awesome question. So one of the stories in American Samoa, and they also have this posted on the national park, and I don't entirely know of it, but I will tell you the gist of it. Basically was that there was a village, I believe, that was on fire, and a bunch of bats came and they used their urine to take out that fire. And so they saved the village.
Wow.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about ghost bats? People keep asking about them. I have no idea what that is.
Oh, I don't think I've heard of ghost bats before.
Well, maybe ghost bats are just some kind of cartoon or myth or.
Oh, okay. Well, I've gone bat netting so many times and have not witnessed a ghost bat or have not been haunted by a ghost bat.
Sounds good. What temperatures can bats live in? Do they prefer warm, cold, wet, dry? What about their living conditions, or does it depend on the bat?
Definitely warm. Depends. It depends on the bat and where they live. But the bats here in the U.S. definitely prefer warm, which is why they do a lot of their activities during the summer and they hibernate during winter. So yes.
Awesome.
How many different species of bats are there?
There are a lot. There are thousands of them. I do not know the exact number, but there's a lot.
Bats are warm-blooded, right? Because they're mammals?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. What got you interested in studying bats?
So I did tell you guys again. So I'm from American Samoa, and American Samoa only has 3 native land mammals. And like I said, they're all bats. And unfortunately, all these bats experience population decline because of habitat loss. You know, we've been having a lot of natural disasters lately. And so my passion for my community and for conservation wildlife is what led me to studying bats.
The wing that you talked about, what are those bones called?
So those are actually the fingers of the bats. So it's the whole arm, and then those little 5 stuff that you see coming out are the fingers. Yes, right here. Those are the fingers.
Awesome.
Yep, and this is the arm.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so it's just all webbed. It's an arm that's
Yep.
webbed
So
from
it's
hand
basically
to
just
foot.
an arm covered with a really nice membrane. Fun fact, the bat's wing, the membrane is the fastest healing membrane in the mammalian taxa.
Really?
Yes.
So do you think there's any uses for human uses for the genetics that cause that fast healing? Can we use it in like medical or for medical purposes?
There have been scientists that have been studying the wing membrane of bats for that purposes, but so far the majority of it I have seen is for aviation purposes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happens on the end of those wings? Do they have like claws like owls or toes like frogs? Like what
Yeah,
is
so
that?
they have just that one claw right there, which is their thumb, and then they also have the claws on their feet. But at the end over here is just nothing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
What about the guano? Is that used for anything?
Yeah, guano can be used to grow crops. There was another purpose for guano that I read somewhere, but yeah, there are definitely other purposes for bat guano.
What bat has the biggest wingspan? Do you know?
The giant golden crowned flying fox.
That one
Yep.
does?
It can be like as long as like a human, let's see, like how like 2 feet.
Wow.
Yeah. This is the largest bat found here and can only be found in the Philippines.
Okay, cool.
So on a good night, how many bats can you find in your net?
When I bat net here in Indiana, there's been one night where we found like about 20 of them, and they were all like little brown and big brown bats.
Wow.
The most we've caught back home in American Samoa were just 3.
Okay.
The flying foxes back home fly really high.
Really?
Yeah.
I got 2 good questions here. Are there bats that like really cold climates, like snowy type climates, like northern Canada, or are they kind of compressed to like towards the equator?
There are bats in countries like that, but they don't do activities during the winter time. However, there is a bat that during hibernation, how they survive in such low temperature during hibernation is that what their body does is that it decreases the temperature so they'll be able to live in those caves and that temperature. And then when it comes to the time where they have to go out and do their activities, or it's warm enough for them to go out, they'll start heating up again, and then they'll start doing their whatever it is they go about their day.
Okay. What kind of predators do bats have? What attacks a bat?
Owls eat bats.
Really?
Let's see. Large birds eat bats as well. I've seen a video of, I think it was an eagle. No, I might be wrong. Humans, yes, humans, either they ruin their habitats or there are countries that eat bats. Let's see. Yeah, that's what I can think of so far.
Have you ever ran across endangered bats?
Yeah, so the bat that I study, the Samoan flying fox is considered an endangered bat.
What conservation steps would you like to continue or start in American Samoa?
So definitely there are regulations and policies that were created to like sort of help recover the population of the flying foxes back home. Hopefully like more reinforcement to those regulations would be good as well, and also protection of the landscapes that contain these bat populations.
How long can a bat live in the wild?
That depends on which bat it is. Like the flying foxes back home can live up to like 7 to 10 years. And those bats are much larger than the ones found here in the US.
So do the smaller ones live longer than the larger ones?
The larger ones, most are in American Samoa, have, during my literature review research, I've known to live longer than the insect-eating ones found here.
Okay. And can you have a bat as a pet? Is that a good idea?
It is not. So these animals are meant for the wild. Even with the way they socialize with each other and other animals, it's all meant for the wild. Human-created habitats can only do so much, but it limits the the bat's life. Like bats need to fly out wherever they want to go. Bats need to interact with other bats, and they have to experience different landscapes and habitats like that. So it's not a good idea to have a wildlife animal as a pet.
Good answer.
What's
Can
the
you tell us
small?
a little bit about bat evolution? Like, what is a close relative to a bat if they're a flying mammal and we don't really have a lot of, or any other flying mammals? Kind of, what are they? Are they more similar to a bird earlier on the evolutionary tree, or are they more similar to?
They're more similar to our rodent friends. So
Yeah.
our furry, four-legged crawling friends, they're more similar to that. And then they've slowly evolved to where they've got wings. And then there's still theories of trying to figure out which evolved first, wings or echolocation. So there's a whole lot of theories on that.
Okay. We got time for about 2 more questions. If Monica, if you have a
Oh
couple
my
more.
gosh, there's so many questions here. You can.
Are
we were
newborn bats
talking about-
ready to
oh,
hang upside down?
well, the fingers are really fascinating. How long are the fingers? What do they do with their fingers?
Yeah, it all depends. The way how long the fingers are depends on the species. They're all different sizes, but usually what they use is like they use it like to wrap around themselves, or they use it to adjust themselves on trees. They even use like that claw thumb right there to climb up of trees and stuff like that. So they use it for all sorts of reasons. And even this long-fingered bat, the reason why it's called long finger is because this long tail right here, and it would use this long tail to scoop up the fishes that it eats.
What's your favorite bat?
The hoary bat.
The hoary.
Hoary bat is my favorite bat because the first time I had one in my hand, it was so fluffy. Like the picture right here, all this is fur. It's all just fur.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to ask a couple of questions about you, and then we'll do a quick wrap up. But
Sure.
how long have you been studying bats? And what made you interested in studying bats?
So the question was how long and what made me interested? Okay. So I started studying bats back in 2017. So about 3 years. And I was really interested because I've never heard of many people who study bats. I mean, aside from me being passionate in conservation and back home, I haven't heard that many people who study bats. And so I was really interested. And also you get a really cool title if you study bats. You're considered a chiropterologist. Not a chiropractor, a chiropterologist.
Wow. I like
Yes.
that. That's very good. Before we let you go, I'm going to ask you the question that we've asked all of our expert guests so far, and that is, what is one thing that you wish everyone in the world knew about bats and bat conservation?
Oh, the ecological services we talked about. Like, that's one thing people don't realize is that the forests that we have, the trees that we have, and the farmers, the reason why they're saving a lot of money is because of these bats. And so that's like one thing I really want, and I hope that you guys go out and spread the word, is that bats actually do a lot of stuff for us humans and for nature in general.
So they're not just eating insects out there. I mean, that's one of their ecological services, but they're also giant pollinators. So we don't think of bats as pollinators. We think of butterflies or bees as pollinators.
Bumblebees, yeah.
Right, yeah.
But bats are also a major pollinator, right?
Yes, bats are major pollinators and seed dispersals. And a lot of people, when they think of seed dispersals, they only think of like birds and stuff like that. But bats do that as well.
Bats do it too.
Cool.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Risa, for joining us. Everyone at home in your living rooms, give Risa a round of applause.
Thank you guys
Great
for
job.
having me.
Yes.
Sorry about the many technical difficulties.
No problem at all. So everyone, make sure to tune in at 1 o'clock. We will be having, let me make sure I can get the poster up. We will be talking about science we can all do anywhere, and our 2 guests are very passionate about science, so they'll teach us about things that we can do for science in our own homes. So make sure to tune in to that at 1 o'clock. Hope we see you then. Thank you again, Risa.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.